right, everyone falling asleep, need some coffee. It's 5 o'clock, it's been a long day. Hopefully this will all make sense. I'm not going to get too technical today because I'm really here kind of to inform everyone about something that I can see it every day is sort of passing us by, us being quality assurance testers, automators, people who are in the business of making sure that the damn thing works, generally know nothing about web analytics, and mistakes get made. So I'm going to try to illuminate what we're faced with here. And the idea is that you all go back and you inform your project that you've heard about this amazing thing, and they'll say, oh, wow, that's awesome. I didn't know people actually ever tested that, and that's exactly what happened to us. And I have 2 employees here from the Lviv office of SoftServe. They will proudly call bullshit on anything I say if I lie. So hopefully they'll keep me in line. So first, I'm going to talk about what web and user analytics are, and I'm going to keep it kind of brief. Then I'll go over what A/B testing is. How many have heard of A/B testing? That is good news. A year ago, that would have been a tenth of you, a tenth of that number of hands. Why this is important to you, some examples, and then how we do our stuff. And again, these guys will keep me in line. So web analytics is in the business of trying to, are you familiar with this funnel? Hit is something where people graze up against your website, they get a page render, and they go away, right? A session is where people actually hit 2 or 3 things, and we can begin to say, that was one person moving through our life cycle. And a user is someone that we have some interaction with. Maybe they've logged in, maybe they haven't. If you've been to Amazon.com, you don't have to log in for them to start knowing what you want to look at, right? So the whole business of web analytics is trying to narrow and shorten this funnel to turn this into this and this into this, because this is where we make money, right? So it's all done through analytics. These are some commercial vendors of analytics. What I have found in the last couple of years is that most companies that run major public websites, they start with these guys, and then they move to something that's kind of in-house because it's more or less it's hard to get everything you need out of a commercial vendor in this space. It can be done, but we actually have been using Omniture. We're starting to move away from it. We've used Woopra, we've used Core Metrics, we've used a lot of these, but in the end, we're pretty much custom all the way. So the purpose of A/B testing analytics is to conduct experiments, make hypotheses, and try to figure out how you can get incremental gains on your revenue and traffic based on little tiny things that you do, right? The quote at the bottom, I think, is particularly apropos because a lot of people are under the impression that Facebook is free because Facebook is not selling you anything. The thing is that Facebook is selling you to other people. If you are not paying for the product, then you are the product that is being sold. And that is the birth of analytics, as to how to productize you more. My company does it too. I'm with RetailMeNot, by the way, which is an American-centric website. If you've been to Germany, we have a site called deals.com. In French, it's bon de réduction. And if you're in Amsterdam, what's it called? Any idea? I don't remember. So we had over 650 million hits last year. That was at the top of the funnel. 650 million, almost zero downtime. That's a subject of another talk. But what it means is that we can't mess things up. When we mess things up even briefly, we lose money in the 5 figures after just a matter of seconds, and I'll go into that for a bit. The basics of A/B testing are you have your amount of traffic that's coming in. Imagine it's just this broad amount of traffic that comes in at any given point. And you say, I'm going to take a small section of that traffic and I'm going to test a new feature on these people, and I'm going to gather data on that, a sampling. Take 10%. The A site will have 90%. The B site will have 10%. The B is your experiment. You don't want to change everything at once because of something that we call the Highball Incident. That was a very specific time at RetailMeNot where there was this awesome party that was planned. It was a karaoke party at the best bar in Austin, which has since been destroyed. So, I mean, this will never happen again. It was a wild party. It was awesome. They had karaoke set up for everyone. I was going to sing Bobby Darin's, what was it called? Mac the Knife. It was going to be amazing. I was going to win the contest. And then we had an incident. This was in May of 2012. We had an incident where somebody thought, let's slightly tweak and rearrange the order of coupons on the page of RetailMeNot, because that's what we do. We serve up discounts and coupons for people. We rearranged these coupons based on an algorithm that we thought, let's try seeing if a coupon that was used more this morning should be promoted this afternoon, and maybe we'll make more money that way. Someone thought about that, they implemented it, they pushed it on the day of the Highball incident. We lost at least 6 figures of money because not only did the algorithm not work, it was flawed. It had a bug in it, right? So we stayed there, 11 of us, backing out the changes to the site, because a simple shift in the tiny algorithm that displays the order of coupons in the correct way broke everything. We're based on revenue. We get money when people click on a coupon, go to Macy's.com, buy something, we get commission. If we screw up the order in which the coupons are displayed, how many of you ever go to page 2 of the Google search results? 0 of you. That's what we're talking about here. That told us that we needed to get better at A/B testing. So, on a good example of A/B testing for us was on our 404 page. If you go to retailmenot.com/ABCD, you'll get a little page that says, sorry, I don't know what you're trying to get to. And we figured out that a lot of people are getting there for one reason or another. A lot of people are getting there trying to hack URLs or trying to get to something, I don't know why. A lot of people are going to the 404 page, and someone said, hey, maybe we could make some money if we put coupons on the 404 page. Monetize everything, right? So 90% of the people coming in see the old 404 page. 10% see the page with the coupons on it. We'll keep it simple. Only the top 15 coupons that people are clicking on today will go onto that site. We're going to slice in 10% of the traffic. And this is what it looks like. Here's a coupon, here's a coupon, here's a coupon. And then when we get down to the bottom, we find out that this particular target coupon on the 404 page tends to be very popular. It's a good one. Now, when you click on this offer, this is where it gets to be relevant to you guys. A lot of stuff starts to happen. We get signals in the form of a small HTTP request that gets sent to a special server that only tracks this kind of analytics and tells you what's going on. Now we try to figure out how many people are clicking on this 404 coupon, how many resulted in a transaction. That tells us, based on almost no work, did we make money, more money than we would have, because of this small decision. And the question is, how much money does it cost to implement this page, maintain this page, and is it worth the extra load, the bandwidth on the database, all that stuff, right? 404 pages have historically been kind of clunky beasts, right? Sometimes they're slow, sometimes they actually render slowly. Normally you wouldn't care about that. This turns out to be a big deal. 650 million web hits. You're probably figuring 0.01%, maybe less, are going to 404 page. It turns out this is getting us easy 5 figures of revenue just from this one small change. And how did we know that? Because we tested the hell out of it. After 2 weeks, we figured out that the tiny amount of effort we put into adding this feature to the 404 page, after 2 weeks it was paid for. Like we expected maybe it would be a good story to tell, it would be kind of a good thing. No, it was paid for. So we promote the B variation to the A site, and so now the A site becomes the main, that's become what we call the control site. So let's do another test. Hey, we just made a bunch of money. Let's do another test. Should we indicate coupon popularity on the 404 page coupons? So what we do is we have a voting mechanism where you can say thumbs up, thumbs down on a coupon to say whether or not it worked. If you go back here, you'll notice there is no thumbs up, thumbs down on the 404 page. Well, if we put those on there and get more customer engagement with the voting, will people go there or not? Well, we ran the test. I'm sure it went fine. I was just sort of giving an example of the thought process that goes into this kind of analysis. Now, where do you see this? You see this on Amazon every time you go to Amazon. When you say, I want to look at this book, it says, oh, here are the 3 other books that people bought who want this. That's not based on your traffic. That's based on 100,000 other people who are looking at this stuff. And it's all based on analytics. Now, I'll tell another story about how we came to know this was important. Our coupons, I don't actually have a slide that shows it, but our coupon page is divided into popular and unpopular. Why do we even put unpopular there? Because analytics told us that if we take it off, we lose money. People still click on unpopular coupons, right? So we figured out that it was good to track the rank of the coupon that people are clicking on, because we want to be able to orient, unlike the Highball Incident where someone just made a guess, we want to study and really be careful, pay careful attention to where someone is clicking on the offer and a whole constellation of other kinds of variables to figure out what should the order of coupons be displayed on this page. Now remember, I said it's broken up into sections. The first day that my boss said, hey, I wonder if maybe you could do some testing on the analytics, because we've never done that before. The first day, the first thing I looked at was that it's resetting the index. 0 coupon, 1 coupon, 2 coupons, 3 coupons. When you get to the unpopular, it reset the index back to 0, which it was not supposed to do. If it's a 35th coupon on the page, under the unpopular section, it should say index 35. It should not say 0. So we figured out that in production for about a month, we had been incorrectly measuring this particular analytic and improperly promoting unpopular coupons to the popular coupon section. And that was the first time I even looked at this stuff. How many analytics is RetailMeNot emitting? It's in the hundreds easy. How many is the New York Times emitting? How many is Wells Fargo? How many, any website you go to, Drudge Report, they're throwing beacons and all sorts of stuff every time you click on anything. How many of you know that? How many of you have ever looked at this? How many of you have ever been assigned a defect or an issue that says, please test the analytics to make sure that our data is correct? I mean, I haven't yet found anyone who has done this. We're in the quality assurance business. Who cares about this stuff? The CEO cares about this stuff. CFO cares about this stuff. This is how you measure revenue. And nobody in this room knows anything about it. I mean, you know, probably a little bit, but hardly anyone I've ever met has ever been in the business of testing this stuff. So this is my signal to everyone. Your mission now is to go back and say, hey, you know what the CEO cares about? CEO cares about this stuff. So we get into the how it actually happens. There's a whole team of people that are working on all this. Usually a business intelligence person who's at the end of the pipeline goes to a product manager at the beginning of the pipeline and says, we want to tweak this variable. That person finds a programmer that she hates and assigns this job to work on this particular variable. And that person, when that developer finishes it, they wrap it up with another feature that they've already implemented, and they push it through the pipeline, and it never even gets looked at by a QA person. Or if it does, it's by some intern who doesn't even really know what they're looking at. It's my experience. It's anecdotal. But I've not yet found a contraindicator that I'm wrong. I'm waiting to be told that I'm wrong, that people are actually looking at this stuff. Good thing is, it's very easy to do. With very, very little work, I was able to use the Chrome developer tools to, that's not it, that's the code. So Chrome developer tools, I was able to find the particular beacons we're throwing off on just about any given RetailMeNot page. So if you look at the cookies, here's all the data that we care about. We're throwing that stuff out every time you click. Sometimes even when you mouse over something, we're throwing this much data. Now, first of all, think about the nightmare it would be to actually test this stuff manually. And then think, what if I used a proxy and just tested it automatically? So here's my example of different websites that have these. This was less than 5 minutes of research. You can go and find out any website you go to, this is what they're doing. You can break these things into key value pairs, and I just showed you the answer, but that's RetailMeNot, right? So, sorry, I'm out of order. This is what we do. In our automated tests, we spin up a proxy, or sometimes we do some navigation to get to the page we're interested in, get the site in the state that we want, start the proxy recording, perform another action, stop the proxy recording, and then we examine everything that happened. We filter out for a particular cookie or a particular request, break it up into key value pairs, and then the server never knows that it even happened. It's completely free of the Heisenberg effect, I would argue. Can you read that? Is that terrible? So that says at test. So test that we launch the browser, navigate to the position, start the proxy, perform main action. Does that say perform main action? Yeah, okay. Stop proxy, clean up test, right? And then we just do this. What we have is, a good little braggy, these guys can correct me. We have 1,100 tests that run in about sub 1 hour that are usually web-based, and about 80 of them do this piece, and it costs us no extra time or effort. Well, a little more effort. You guys, effort. We execute these using TeamCity, Maven, TestNG. It's a Java stack, Java. We use the BrowserMob Proxy by Patrick Lightbody, TestNG, Selenium. This is not necessary, but I wanted to show that this is sort of a standard stack that we're using. My bet is a lot of people in this room are using a very similar stack. Show of hands? Similar stack, right? So add this to your lexicon, and suddenly you can do analytics testing. We report this stuff to a nice little Elasticsearch Kibana dashboard. This is where you guys need to say that I'm lying. This is a prototype dashboard. They've never seen it. The idea being that we have a certain number of analytics we want to test on a given day. Some are red because they failed. Some are yellow because we were unable to get signal. Then the green ones obviously passed, right? So we have different domains we're testing. This is impossible to read, but you can see that we're breaking down the data in a way that executives, who can't read, can actually visualize this stuff. So this is the point where I realize I've gone way too fast. Yeah, the conclusion is simply that your business is based on this kind of stuff, and what do we spend our time doing? We spend our time making sure that the button is still green, or that you can still log in and create a user, that kind of thing. What I think everyone in here should do is go back and ask, if you're a public-facing website, what do you need tested here? Because I guarantee you when it goes wrong, people get wrong signal, and they just won't know for a really long time. So this is me. I can keep talking about another process that we've used to do more comprehensive analytics testing. It's a completely different presentation, but it complements well with it. Any questions so far? Let me show a little bit of code real quick. The question was, how do we take analytics with HTTPS? And the answer is we kind of don't. RetailMeNot's a public website. We don't have any secure anything on there. For a bank, I would imagine it would be not terribly different. But so my preference would be that this be truly data-driven test and not have just the same stuff repeated over and over again. This code is not the best in the world, but I wanted to show it's very simple how we this is a little bit of a sampler on how we model all of our tests. We get an instance of the store page by navigating to it. That's the only way you can actually reach a store page in our code, is to navigate to it. Set up the proxy to listen, and then you click. Then you start to take apart the HAR. HAR is HTTP archive. And once you've broken it down, you can start to take the pairs, key value pairs, and then you can start to ask questions about particular key value pairs that you're interested in. So these are an equals. This needs to equal that. These just need to exist. These are actually testing Google Analytics, not our own internal analytics. But this is essentially what you would need to do. We have a lot smaller tests in some cases, and in some cases we're doing others, but this is what I wanted to show in general. But that's a sampling of what the code looks like. Now let me get the other one up. We have since taken this approach. I apologize, it's going to take a second. If I keep going faster, we can demonstrate the Tapster bot. So we were fairly successful in testing our analytics, but all we were able to test was that the site was generating the analytic beacon. You know what I mean? So you click the button, the request is sent, and that answered 50% of our questions. The other 50% is, did it get received? Because there's another system down the line that cares about whether or not that analytic data made it. And that's, I guess, arguably more important, you know? We know the guys on this side of the house wrote their code correctly. Do we know if this guy, or do we know if some disaster happened, an Amazocalypse like it's happened so many times? See if this actually works with this. No, it doesn't. It does. All right. So what we do is every 30 minutes in production, we send a series of tests, and then later on we find out whether or not they worked. I don't know why we ask China, but that's what we do. What we do is we queue up a whole bunch of testers. So we found out, I showed you a little bit of the website, right? We've got coupons on the page. We've got coupons on the store page, on the community page, on the 404 page, on the categories page. We've got, I think, 8 different coupon serving pages, right? On the coupon, there is a link, and there is a button, and then there's a little thing over here. I don't know what you call it. Store logo, maybe? I don't know. So then there's a thing at the top of the page called the carousel. And one day we got a bug that said there's also 3 different kinds of coupons: code, printable, and sale. So if code offer, you know what that means. You have a code that it gives you that you type in. Sale offer, you click and it brings you to a page and just says, there's a sale here. Printable offer, something you print out and you take to the store. So we got a bug that said code offers on the carousel page are not sending the correct analytics. Who the hell would have known to test that particular combination of things? So did a little bit of analysis, and I figured out that there were over 1,800 different possible code paths to get to that beacon being emitted by the software. And I said, holy shit. So what we did is, I'm not going to go into the subject, but I used what's called set reduction, pairwise testing, to reduce that set of 1,800 down to about 30. Please Google that term. Not at the moment. I won't go into it unless you want me to, unless I actually do run out of time. But pairwise testing, set reduction, to produce the best 30 sets of what they're called outclicks in order to be able to test the best code paths through the system. It's not randomized. It's just a good combination of things that give us a pretty good guarantee that we don't need to run all 1,800 every 30 minutes. We run 30 every 30 minutes, right? So what we do is we queue up, pardon me, we queue up the 30 different combinations that we want to test this go-around. The next go-around, we'll queue up a different set of 30 and then a different set of 30 so that in any given 24-hour period, we have hopefully stepped through all 1,800 code paths. Don't call me out for lying on that. It's only a small lie. So we queue up all the different combinations thing. Chrome and Firefox, home, store, category, landing, search, code, tip, printable. Referrer is who we're coming from. Is it coming from Yahoo? Is it coming from Google? Is it coming from Bing? It's never coming from Bing. This produces 24 test cases. I'm just kidding, Microsoft. Produces 24 test cases, 24 different what I call vectors, ways to come into the code, right? Pairwise, this is the set reduction thing. Please Google it. I won't waste time on that right now. Team City executes these things every half an hour, and then we see that it's running. It's actually, this is how many times we have run this thing, and this was 6 months ago. We run these things through the Selenium Grid. We have a pretty magical Selenium Grid, subject of another topic of conversation, that can handle a whole bunch of load in a whole lot of time, or a little bit of time. So we can actually run all 24 of these things in about a minute and a half. I assume everyone here is fairly conversant with Selenium Grid. Good? Good on Grid? Yeah, all right. Not too many, actually. Dima, we need to We need to do some teaching. So here's a picture of the page. We are going to program our own identifier. This is our signal to the website that this is only a test and that they need to filter it out, because if we click on the website, then they track that as a user interaction. They're actually assuming that they're going to make some money off of this. We need to tell them this is fake. That's how we do this, by programming I guess you keep pointing right there. This particular string is the thing that tells the website this is a test. Don't actually record it in the end, but just know, right? So here's what, actually this page has changed quite a lot, but here's the page, and the automated test will go through and randomly, or not randomly, based on the criteria that were in the queue, it will select the link or the button or the code in order to go to select the coupon. Right, so we're going to click on, presumably, this top one, Discount Shoe Warehouse. Sorry, Designer Shoe Warehouse. They changed their name. So this first path I'm going to show you through is how it's moving through the internal system. It's going to a MySQL table called OutClickRaw. This is no longer true. It was true 6 months ago. We've changed everything, but it's you get it, right? So this is internally, it's being processed into a table called OutClickRaw. And then it gets exported to a table called OutClickMaster. And then it gets ETL'd in Ukraine by, I believe, some process that turns it into Vertica, right? How many points of failure was that? Back at the click, I'm going to take you through a different path now. Here's what the tests do. The test says, what did we just send? It basically studies the DOM. It says, how far down the page was the coupon? Starts to build some attributes. What was the coupon ID? What was the store you clicked on? What was all this stuff that you did? And it builds data. I'm sorry, I am actually on the wrong code path. Let me start. Now it's going to go there, the pending queue, gathering all this data, and it's going to send it to another queue. So we have a second queue. That's the expected results queue. Offer ID, domain, visitor session. This is a Google thing. And then a second piece of data. What I'm actually omitting here, because it's not important, is that we're actually testing two internal processes at the same time. We send two requests that say these are both happening. And so we go add ad nauseum. And if anything happens to WebDriver at this point, WebDriver sometimes freaks out. You don't say. WebDriver says, I don't see the link, I don't know what happened. If WebDriver fails, then we don't send an alert about it because it's our problem. It's not the problem of the ETL data folks. That goes to us. The handshake process happens when you've got a whole bunch of requests that you've sent to the handshake queue, sorry, the expected queue, and it's going to now start querying the end database that the BI people look at. They're looking at Vertica. They want to make sure that if I clicked on something, a coupon, 30 minutes ago, it needs to show up here within a certain amount of time. If it shows up within a certain amount of time, if it doesn't show up within a certain amount of time, then it fails. We send an alert on that. So the idea being that that's going to go to the people who are really important, pandas, right? We have a few things left to do on this, but I won't even dwell on that. That's actually an internal thing. So point being that we are using the proxy, using test assets that we designed for one purpose, and we're now satisfying the needs of about 7 different breakpoints, 7 different internal customers, to make sure that the work the people are doing here makes sense and is cohesive with the work that the people are doing here. And I would invite everyone to try to get involved in the business of end-to-end testing, because, like I said, most of us are so stuck on, is the button still green? Can I still create a user? Please, let's automate that kind of question out of existence, and let's start worrying about the stuff that the CEO cares about. And that's my pitch to everyone. I believe that's the end of that slide. Am I still way early? I still got 20 minutes to go. Are there any questions? Yes, Dima. Can I go into detail about orthogonal arrays, please? Can I go into detail about our Selenium Grid Scaler? All right. If there are any questions on analytics or anything like that, I'll be glad to take them because I'm about, yes.
Maybe main information that is most valuable. So what exactly you are looking for in your requests, and what kind of information can help us to start write our tests, and
Right.
we can implement analytics from the beginning of our tests.
Well, first thing I would advise is forming a cozy relationship with the developers and business intelligence people who make these kinds of features, because really they're going to be the best guide. But the first thing I would do if I was sort of just trying to show some initiative is I would look for something like this. I think I had a slide early on that showed examples. And this really is mostly applicable to those who are running public websites that have, you know, large amounts of traffic where something like this would be significant. So if you, I mean, I'm debating whether or not I should actually try this right now, because I think we could try this right now and actually find some interesting information. Now, some of these websites are starting to be a little bit more sophisticated, and they're starting to encode this data, and it's not going across as clear text, but in a lot of cases, they're not. The most important thing is, I would say that they're always going to be tracking some sort of user identifier. And the key there is they're probably tracking that whether you're logged in or not. If you're a logged in user, they're going to have an identifier for you if it's a UUID or some sort of username. But also, if you've been to the site more than once, they're going to track you based on MAC address or IP or profile. When I logged into Chrome, into RetailMeNot using Chrome, before I ever started working at this company, it put a footprint on my browser, and now I'm always that same footprint. So I believe that's how Amazon is able to, if you go shopping for a series of Clifford books for your 4-year-old kid, I don't know, what's the Chubrashka books for your 4-year-old on Amazon, and you go back to Amazon a year later using the same browser, the same computer, it's going to be saying, oh, you want Chubrashka? You know? So user identifier is one thing. But there are also some little magic numbers that are usually hidden in there, and that's where I would try to start a conversation with the people who are really important, because chances are they're making big decisions based on little things like I said, coupon rank, number 37, but it's actually number 52. And that throws a gigantic bad signal towards the analytics people, right? That was the biggest one I ever found. Does that answer your question? Sure. There are sometimes cases, the question was, is there ever anything that doesn't come through the proxy? Oleg, did you work on something where we had a problem where it was bouncing away from RetailMeNot to another external site, and we, for some reason, just, I don't know if it was a same origin problem or what, but we just could not get that to register. And we ended up having, that's a manual test that we have to run. But it's very rare. It's like the only request I can remember that we just couldn't get a hold of. Is that right? Yeah. So, any more questions about analytics? Because I can go a little bit off book and start talking about this other thing that we've been working on. Interest in that, or interest in ending early? It's a long day. Show of hands, who wants to know about Selenium Grid Scaler? Moshe, yeah, I know, all right. Okay, I will talk about Selenium Grid Scaler, which is a project that my company has released as open source. I will start by saying that I was not the lead developer on it, so I want to give Matthew Harden all the credit in the world that he deserves. This is available on GitHub. At this point, I don't believe it is available as a Maven artifact in Maven repo, but I think that that is our intention. We could probably get it there pretty fast. I don't have any slides on this, but I'll just wing it. So Selenium Grid is a brilliant, genius example of parallelization of tests that was written by Francois Reynaud a while back. Poorly documented, but very effective once you get it set up right. It means you don't have to use Sauce Labs for everything. So Grid allows you to take a set of tests and execute them in parallel so that you can get through your tests faster. That way you can have 40 tests running at a time, and you can run it all from your local box or from Team City, and you don't really have to care about the configuration or anything. You can run Windows from your Mac, you can run Mac from your Windows box, that kind of thing. So it's an amazing piece of software, except that it has limitations in that if you set up a Selenium Grid hub, the hub is the brain, the hub receives all requests and sends all the requests to a set of nodes. I believe the Prezi presentation actually had a graphic about this. I will try to get to that. Where's the full screen button? I don't know. Anyway, so there's a hub, and it decides when you send it a test request that it's going to start using the JSON wire protocol to communicate with the browser, i.e. Chrome instance on your node. That way you can, when you spin up a node, you register it with the hub, and they kind of make this handshake, and then they get to talk to each other. The limitations of Grid at this point are that if I have 40 nodes that can run, 40 tests that can run in parallel, and you, Bodja, ask for 30 of them, and then Oleg comes along, and he wants 30. Well, there were only 10 left. So it gives you 10, and the trick is if you're using TestNG or another one of the multi-threaded JUnit style testing platforms, once Bodja's 30 tests are finished, it won't automatically free up the other threads for Oleg to use. He gets to use 10 for the life of the result. Subsequently, we run, I don't think I'm lying, I think we run about 12,000 tests a day when you include CQMS, because they're doing true continuous integration. Whenever they check in code, our web tests run, there's about 800 of them, CQMS, right? That's a special project that we have. Our own RetailMeNot, there's about 1,100 tests. We run them 3 times a day at least. So we run something like 20,000 tests a day, 12,000 tests a day, sorry. I had delusions of grandeur. And for a while, we were having to send each other emails saying, hey, are you using the grid? Yeah, all right. We'll wait. And then we wait, and then we say, nope, somebody else is using the grid. Sorry, can't use the grid. So we start asking, should we go with Sauce Labs? Then this guy, Matthew Harden, genius, has an idea that, hey, we know how to spin up EC2 instances with Java code, right? We have an account with EC2. So we start using Amazon Web Services, and we think, we'll just build a grid in the cloud and we'll have everything run off of that. And then he takes it a step further, gives us a sort of a proposition, and once we hear it, we say, yeah, absolutely, take 2 months and do this. He made it to where the grid will take a request, and if the request for tests exceeds the number of threads that are available, it will simply go to Amazon, build new nodes based on that request, and within about a minute and a half, you have a completely scaled grid that will just start working by magic. These nodes will spin up, they'll register themselves with the Grid Hub, and as soon as the Grid Hub says that they're available, it will automatically start sending requests to them based on the desired capabilities of Chrome, Firefox, Windows, IE, stuff like that. The really cool thing is that, I'm so proud of this piece because it was just a great idea and it was well implemented by Matthew. As soon as the test is finished and that node is sitting there idle, countdown starts. AWS charges you by the hour. If you launch a machine for 10 seconds, you're charged for an hour. If it runs for 59 minutes, you're charged for an hour. So 56 minutes into the hour, if no requests are coming along, it just shuts the node down. So the next step will be to use spot instances so that we can save even more money. But at this point, the grid, the auto-scaling Selenium Grid, has saved us compared to sauce or compared to having a person maintaining a full-time grid, it has saved us at least 6 figures. I think that is not an exaggeration. Haven't quite run the numbers. Back of the napkin tells me 6 figures is easy. 12,000 tests a day. We almost never have a problem with this thing. And it's completely open source. So it's available. It's not, I mean, it is kind of, I'll caveat this with that it's kind of for experts because it involves a fair amount of knowledge of AWS. It involves having an account with AWS. It involves understanding a little bit about how to configure things. The documentation's pretty good. But you know, if you don't know how to do this stuff or you're not interested in a project, then probably should use Sauce Labs. But the amount of money you save by doing this, by going the extra effort, this is a slam dunk for us. Absolutely. What else can I tell you? It is using the GPL license. That's very important because we wrote this essentially so that nobody could just go off and turn this into a business. We want people to use this internally for their own projects and get the most they can out of it, but we also want to send a signal to Sauce Labs that we're not trying to put them out of business. We're trying to give people a little bit of a tool, a little bit of a leg up that helps them. We don't do video recording. There's a lot of things we don't do that Sauce does offer. But for us, this was a killer thing that allowed us to do our continuous, constant releasing, we release every 2 weeks. And it's available right now. Are there any questions on this? Yes? Right. My understanding, I didn't write that part of it. My understanding is that we have publicly available AMIs, and also you can build your own AMI with a certain launch configuration. The code all should be there. And there's a config file where you put your secret and access keys as well as your AMIs, and there's different config things that you can put in there to make it to where it will just work. My understanding is that they're publicly available AMIs. If they're not, please let me know. We need to make that available. The images we're using should have no proprietary RMN content on them at all, so there's no reason we couldn't make them public. Yeah. Is there anything else? I know I veered way to the left there, but yeah. Increase in speed, we can run 1,100 tests, guys, 40 minutes. 1,100 tests in 40 minutes. That's hardcore browser-based. Launch the browser, do some stuff, kill the browser, and because it's using the rest of our internal framework, all of those tests have the ability to launch the proxy, talk to the proxy, do reporting, report back to test rails, our test management. So we're able to get lots and lots of signal on these things really, really fast. After moving to, before we only had about 100 tests before we implemented the grid. We developed this stuff in parallel. It was never an option not to run them in parallel, yes. Sorry, how many nodes? So it's a little complicated answer. I can't give you a simple answer. If you talk about threads, that's a feature I forgot to mention. If you, right now for a one given hub, I don't have the picture, one hub, the brain, it can handle 300 threads. If you exceed 300, it launches a brand new hub. So it'll just build you a new one. And then if you exceed that, then it will build you a new one. One day, Matthew got mad at me because he was just testing some stuff out and it wasn't quite working yet. And I launched about 1,400 hubs. It's awesome. That cost us a little bit, but it's okay. I did all the testing for you. You don't have to worry about it. The other thing to mention is that this is fairly well optimized in terms of, it gives you sort of an idea here. Chrome with a C3 large can run 6 threads per instance, and it will automatically optimize all this stuff. If you need 30 threads of Chrome, it'll launch 5 nodes. That way we get to control the costs. I believe, I don't think I'm lying, I believe that the number of nodes per type is configurable inside the software. The thing that I want to do and haven't done, and hey, it's open source, so pull requests are welcome, is to implement this using reserved or spot instances so that we can save even more money. I was actually told by my someone up the chain, I said I want to implement spot instances, and he said, how long do you think that'll take? I said, it'll take it 4 or 5 days. He's like, don't do it. Don't optimize this for $1,000 or whatever. And to me, it's an obvious thing. It should be done. Because at this point, it would have saved us, I don't know, it's already saved us 6 figures. It would have saved us a lot more if we were going with spot or reserved instances. So I invite anyone, any contributions to this to help out with that feature. IE is also not exactly something we finished because it's hard. I was going to say something a lot meaner. Haven't finished IE. Once again, we invite people to create a publicly available AMI that we could just plug into this thing. I think it wouldn't be that hard. Firefox, we've got all the information here. We have a fair amount of information and documentation on the open source project itself. But this thing has been absolutely rock solid for about a year now. And I can't recommend it highly enough. I can't take much credit at all for the project, but it's been really great. Are there any more questions about that? I have given you 3 presentations for the price of 1. Is that good? All right. Well, I'll be around.